Welcome to another blackety black episode of the Melanin Mayhem podcast, hosted by your favorite country girl, Renee Davis. If you just so happen to stumble across my little podcast today, let me put you up on game real quick so you'll know what you're dealing with, right? You see, I got a crew, the Noir Nation, and every week we get together and we talk about some of the craziest fucking stories about crimes that are so audacious, heinous, diabolical, committed by some melanated baddies that we didn't even know nothing about. Cause y'all know our stories don't really get that shine like that in the media. And if you know, you know. And yes, I said we talk because we do. And once you start listening, you gonna start talking too. And oh, if by chance you have heard a little something about the subject, you haven't heard the story the way I tell it, baby. Noir Nation, what's up, cousins? In the words of the eternal Bernie Mac, I clap for Lord, I have missed y'all. My favorite day of the week now is Wednesday because I know we gonna get together and shoot the shit, you know what I'm saying? Cause baby, y'all my most favorite people in the whole wide world. Now don't y'all tell my kids that. They probably get in their feelings a little bit. Well, you know, over here we talk about the prolific ones, right? The ones that did some history-making crimes. And today, baby, I didn't even come to play with y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all about a gang of brothers and they next-door neighbor, little sidekick. They were literally terrorizing the streets of Richmond, Virginia. These niggas made history in such an audacious way that it's truly a sin and a shame for God that we ain't know nothing about this shit. The stars of this week's episode, as one judge put it, they committed the vilest rampage of raping, murdering, robbing, and kidnapping that the state of Virginia had ever seen. They spread that violence around too, y'all. I'm talking black, white, young, old, anybody could get it. Baby, this week I'm going to tell you the true story about some brothers that had Richmond, Virginia shook in the 70s. I'm talking about straight up menace to societies for 9 long ass months. Some of the most vicious crimes you ain't ever heard about. So without further ado, let's get on with the getting on and get to the business at hand. Dragging to the front of the congregation, this week's Melanin Mayhem makers, their leader, Linwood Briley, his brothers, James Darrell Briley and Anthony Ray Briley, and this little young nigga that lived next door, Duncan Eric Meekins. I call them niggas the Briley gang. All right, y'all, let's get down to it. Now, I gotta tell y'all, this week, doing the research for the podcast has unlocked a new fear for me, honey. What do you get when you cross an aggressive ass, street ass, hood ass, thug ass, drug dealing ass nigga, and then you give him serial killer tendencies? You get this week's tale of mayhem is what you get. So let's get into a little background on these hellions. Linwood Earl Briley was born March 26, 1954. His brother James Darrell Briley Jr. was born June 6, 1956. Now, what I don't understand is why is the second son a junior? Was that nigga Linwood an ugly baby or something? Or was it that senior didn't think it was his baby? Anywho, Anthony Ray Briley was born February 17th, 1958. Now, their parents were James Sr. and Bertha Briley. There was another brother that was actually the oldest brother. His name was Edward Jerome Briley. He was born July 7th, 1952. And again, I ask, why the hell is it that the third child has the title of junior? I'm going to get off of it. Anyway, Edward was not a part of any of the shenanigans of his other brothers that I'm about to tell you about. You see, Edward left home early. I'm talking about when he was in his early teenage years is how they describe it. He went down to South Carolina to go live with his aunties. Let me find out that Edward knew his little brothers were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and he ain't want no parts of the bullshit. And that fourth nigga that I introed, when all the shit go down, he wasn't but 16 years old, so that puts him Eric, born around 1963. So, okay. The three brothers had a decent, dare I say, wholesome upbringing by society standards. You know what I'm saying? They had Senior and Bertha. They had a house over on 4th Avenue. I'm saying their daddy was married to their mama and was present in the home. They raised those children on a steady diet of Jesus juice. You know what I'm saying? The neighbor said they was a fine family, and the children, they were a pride to the neighborhood. I mean, the Briley boys were some of the good ones. They were always lending a hand to help out their elders. I'm talking about carrying groceries, washing cars, cutting grass, just do-gooders. But at the same time, there were signs. Oh, yes. There's always signs. You see, at home, these little niggas had an array of pets that could fuck somebody up. I'm talking tarantulas, boa constrictors, piranhas and shit. Excuse me, can y'all go get some nigga pets? Like, we do pit bull puppies. Ask Cat Williams. He'll tell you. For the most part, the most exotic of a pet that the average black family is going to allow their kids to get is a hamster. Because we don't do rodents either. But the hamsters are cute, so we'll make an exception. But you for damn sure ain't finna bring no snakes and spiders up in this bitch. Like, no. I know this podcast dispels the myth about shit black folks don't do. I was talking about crimes. I ain't talking about culture. Come on now. And, there was another red flag that lets me know that them little motherfuckers were some terrors. It seems like Bertha and Daddy Briley were prisoners in their own house. Why you say that, Nay? Well, the streets say that Senior had a padlock on the inside of his bedroom door that he locked every motherfucking night. What was you scared of, Senior, in your own house? Why you got a super duper lock on your bedroom door that you lock every night? You was scared of them little terrorist motherfuckers, huh? I know. You thought they was gonna kill you and Bertha in your sleep. You were gonna make sure y'all seen the sunrise every day. But you know what? I think Bertha got tired of the bullshit. Something or somebody got on her last damn nerve, and when them little niggas hit their teenage years, they say Bertha throw all their ass to deuces and bounce. I'm out, bitch. And so now it's just Senior alone in the house with the boys. But Senior didn't stop locking his damn door after Bertha left either. Okay. So everything seemed okay. The guys are, finding a new normal routine. There was nothing that would raise an eyebrow. But nobody knew what was brewing just beneath the surface. I'm going to tell you what was brewing beneath the surface. On January 28th, 1971, their next door neighbor, a 57-year-old woman named Orlean Christian, she was in her backyard putting some clothes on the clothesline. And for you youngsters, that was old school way of drying clothes. You hang your shit on a string and let God dry your clothes. And it had been a rough time for Orlean because she had just buried her husband. I'm talking about just. She still had people at her house that had come in for the funeral. Well, Orlean is out there just minding her business, and all of a sudden, she just falls to the ground. Deader than a motherfucker. Well, her family, when they found her, they just assumed that she couldn't live without her husband no more, so she just jumped on the stairway to heaven to be with him. And y'all know that shit happens. It's called broken heart syndrome. Well, the people came and get Orlean to go take her to the funeral home, and the funeral home does what they do, and a couple of days later, the funeral home sent the family the clothes that Orlean had been wearing when she died. Somebody just so happened to be really looking at Orlean's dress, and they realized that there was a hole in it, and the hole had some blood around it. What the fuck? So they called over to the funeral home, and they was like, hey man, take a look at Orlean and see if you see a hole in her body. And so then the funeral home, they looked and they was like, well, I be goddamn. Orlean do got a hole in her ass. So they bundled her up and they sent her back to the morgue for the medical examiner to have a second look. Well, now ain't no damn funeral because some shit actually done went down with Orlean. Come to find out, Orlean been shot with a .22. Orlean didn't die of broken heart syndrome. Somebody killed Orlean. Well, by now, it's been a few days, so now the cops are behind, so they trying to piece together what the fuck had went down. There's this detective, Norman Harding. He has an idea. He goes to the hardware store, he get a piece of wood, and he traced the outline of how Orlean would have been standing, and then he marked on the hardwood where the hole was in Orlean's ass. He got with the paramedics, and then he wanted to know from them, where did y'all find Orlean? So now that he know where to go and where to prop the wood up, he looks through the hole, And he realizes it's only two places that the bullet that hit Orlean could have came from. One of the houses is next door, and the other one is empty. Well, the house that was next door is the Briley's house. So the detective, he goes over and he knock on the door, and Senior comes to the door, and he talk to Senior for a little bit, and come to find out, Senior do got a 22. Well, can I see your bullets? Well, look like these bullets match the ones they pulled out of Orlean ass. The day Orlean got, 16-year-old Linwood was the only one at home in the Briley household, because he had stayed home from school because he was sick. Now, y'all watch this fuckery. Now, see, the detective, he didn't talk to Linwood until after Senior had done took him into a room for about 5 minutes to talk to him. And when they came out, guess what they said? Linwood claimed that he was shooting at birds out the window, and he had must have fucked around and shot Miss Orlean, cause I ain't mean to do it. And so they look around, ain't a dead bird nowhere to be found, but okay, you shooting at birds on the ground? You weren't shooting them in the sky. You was shooting them on the ground where Orlean was. Okay. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Linwood is charged with involuntary manslaughter in juvenile court. They gave this little nigga a year in juvie. 1 year. And this little motherfucker didn't even do 365 days for killing Orlean. They locked his ass up at the Beaumont Learning Center on February 22nd, 1971, and he was back on the block October 17th, 1971. That nigga did 237 days for killing a bitch. Tell me, make it make sense. Can you make it make sense? And I'm telling you, it must have been in the DNA, because it looked like every time the boys turned 16, they was into some crazy shit. Like when James turned 16, this nigga was wilding and he shooting at the police and shit. Anthony, the same thing. When he turned 16, he out here wilding in the streets too. He in juvie. All of them go, and then they back on the block in no time flat. Now, at this point, Linwood feel like he the baddest motherfucker in Virginia and begins to act as such. He got a day job. His day job is a full-time street-ass nigga. He into all kind of street activities, selling dope, shooting dice, jacking, smacking, tracking, anything that go down in the streets. Linwood's hands was in that shit. And his brothers, they right there to be his backup. And I guess little Eric thought it'd be better to get down than to be laid down. And that's a smart, dumbass move because, sir, while getting down with these motherfuckers mean they might not necessarily fuck you up, it also means getting down with this crew is gonna lead to you getting fucked up. But you know, young people, you can't tell them nothing. So I told y'all about Linwood's day job, but the nigga also got a side hustle. And this nigga worked real hard at his side hustle too. Serial offending. Oh yes. Linwood and his crew, they are raping rapers that rape, robbing robbers that rob, murdering murderers that murder, and they put that motherfucking work in on their hustle, baby. Them crimes that they committed against the citizens are so goddamn diabolical, and I got all the tea. So let me get you started. In 1973, James Briley got caught in a little aggravated robbery type of situation. He stuck up a convenience store and beat the clerk to a pulp. And so, you know, I told y'all they was aggressive and just career criminals, right? So in 73, they get this nigga 10 do 5, right? And he goes off to prison. So for the first part of the shenanigans I'm about to tell y'all about, James was locked up. But don't worry, he gonna play catch up. Trust. So let's kick off the niggatry with a little aggravated assault, shall we, Noir Nation? On March 12, 1979, Linwood Briley knocks on the door of William and Virginia Butcher in Henrico County. Now, he told them that he had car trouble and he wanted to know if he could use their phone. Now, this is still the 70s, and it was still a time when people were a little bit trusting and they would let you in if you said you needed some help. Well, William wasn't so friendly. He wasn't going to let him in, but he did offer to make the call for him, right? So he tells the stranger on his doorstep, if you give me your AAA card, I'll go call him for you and tell them to come get you. And so Linwood was like, okay. So he go and he pulls his wallet out and he pulls a card out. And when William cracked the door open to get it, Linwood pulled that heater out and laid that ass down. Here come his brother Anthony. He gonna get in on the fun. So they tied them up and then they robbed their goddamn house. Now, as if that wasn't enough criming right there, you gonna see that Linwood like to extra flip, put the dubs on that bitch. Linwood decide that he gonna roast marshmallows. And the marshmallows is gonna be William and Virginia. Baby, Noir Nation, tell me why they poured gas all through their house, including on these two white folks, and then lit a match. Whoosh. He lit that bitch up like he was lighting the grill. And then they left them people to burn alive. They drove off in their car along with two of their TVs, a police scanner, and a 32. But thankfully, William was like, not today, Satan. He worked himself loose and grabbed Virginia up, and they ran for their life and watched their goddamn house burn the fuck down. But at least they were alive, which the rest of the victims that's to come, they won't have that luxury. They're gonna lose their lives. So when I tell you that these thug-ass niggas was out here heavy in these streets, some kind of way, Linwood and Anthony came across some info that a local joker named Michael McDuffie was a sweet little lick. And see, 22-year-old Michael McDuffie, he worked for a vending company, emptying the machines. So yeah, at the end of his day, I'm sure he was holding a nice little piece of change. Well, honey, on March 21st, 1979, Linwood and Anthony ran up on Michael as he got off from work, and they put that blicky on him, and they stuffed him in the trunk of his own damn car. They drove Michael way out, they shot him up, and they left him to rot somewhere out there in eastern Henrico County. I told y'all, these niggas is some real street niggas doing real street nigga shit. Cause 10 days later, on March 31st, Linwood, he was beefing with a nigga named Edric Clark about some drug shit. Well, you can't play with that nigga Linwood no kind of way. And 28-year-old Edric had violated, and Linwood was ready to handle that little business. So him and the little buddy Eric Meekins, they run up in Edric's house over in the East End, and Linwood shoot Edric with a rifle. Beef resolved. I told you, the nigga is hood and street now. And guess what? On nothing but go. Cause 9 days later, April 9th, 1979, this time it's Linwood, Anthony, and Eric, and they back on the bullshit. Baby, tell me why this time they picked a defenseless 76-year-old Mary McGowan. Mary would pick up a few extra dollars to supplement her SSI check by babysitting, right? And this particular night, she had been looking after a child over on the north side. Well, when she left to go home, some kind of way, Linwood ended up following her to her house in the West End. They blitzed this old white woman, and I'm talking about they went upside her head, snatched her up right at her front door. Tell me why these funky bastards drug her behind her house, robbed her, raped her, and then filled her up with lead. These funky bastards. The fuck you gonna rape a 76-year-old woman? Now y'all know how I feel about sex crimes against Gertrude and them. It's a special place in hell for men that rape old and the babies. Not to say that there's not a special place for the men that rape any woman, but you should really bust hell wide open for real for fucking with the old and the young. You need to get the extra. I'm just saying. I'm trying to tell y'all, these niggas was domestic terrorists. They were like, no stop, no pause, just every day, just criminaling and criming up the place. Just like on May 9th, 1979, man named William Pillow, he is just getting out of his car. I mean, damn, I just put the car in park. All I did was open the door. Linwood and Eric ran up on him and yoked him out the car right quick. They throwed him up on the windshield and just throwing him all over the car. Just roughing him up and gut checking him a few times. They took his wallet and then they shot at him. But the bullet missed and it hit the windshield instead. They went through, but the gun jammed. And now people are looking out the window because William is screaming his head off. So Linwood and them, they run off. I know William needed a new pair of pants because woo child, that man was so close to leaving here. So close. And you know what? It just get worse. In a stroke of the worst luck ever, 17-year-old Christopher Phillips, he was in the wrong place, seen by the wrong people that got the wrong idea. You see, July 3rd, 1979, Christopher was minding his own business. He was probably thinking about what he was going to do the next day for the 4th, but the three amigos, they saw him standing a little too close to Linwood's car, and they thought he was trying to steal it. Man, when I tell y'all they beat the brakes off this young man, Christopher was yelling and screaming for his life, and Linwood decided to shut him up permanently. This nigga dropped a cinder block on Christopher's head. God damn! Ooh, that's cold-blooded. And just went on about life. And I just don't understand. When y'all see the pictures, honey, I want to know how this funky ass El DeBarge from Timu ass nigga just running up on motherfuckers and laying them down and getting away with the shit. Cause mind you, I ain't told y'all nothing about police cause I couldn't find nothing about police. There was nothing. These people were just dying and they was moving on. No investigations, no goddamn dragnets, just people dying. A horrible, horrible death. And the robbing crew and the crew that's laying these motherfuckers down, they ain't being locked up for nothing that's got to do with these crimes. None of them. And the criming just continues. So James Briley gets paroled August of 1979. And I told y'all that nigga was gonna hit the ground running. He had to catch up with his aggravated assaults and killings and shit, right? And so the next month, September 14th, 1979, 62-year-old country western DJ Johnny G. Gallagher, he thought he was living his best life. You see, he played in a little band. He played the guitar. And they had a little gig at a little tavern. Now, I told you he was 62. I don't think he was trying to be a star or nothing like that. He just liked to mess around and play his bass while the people got drunk and ate peanuts. You know what I'm saying? So they playing at this little spot on the south side and the band take a break between sets. Johnny G gonna go outside and have him a cigarette because, you know, he just played the fuck out that guitar. So tell me why Linwood and them boys just so happened to run up on him as he out there trying to get him a little piece of nicotine, right? They snatch him up. I mean, they threw him in the trunk of his own Lincoln Continental. At least that trunk was roomy. You know them goddamn Lincoln Continentals had a big old trunk, looked like a sofa. Anyway, that's not the point. They drove Johnny G to Mayo Island, and then they shoot him in his back and send him straight to the upper room. And baby, they robbed him. But please tell me he didn't have but $6 on him. I mean, $6. They sent this man to see Jesus for $6. They didn't even steal the car. They left the car there. 2 days later, a fisherman found Johnny G floating in the James River. The police say they located his car and his lace front. Now, you know what? That's shady as fuck for putting that out there. We did not need to know that Johnny G was rocking a 27-piece. Shady boots. Now, if you can't tell by now, Linwood is the motherfucking ringleader. He is at all the crimes. And on September 30th, 1979, the three Briley brothers and Eric, they decided that it was a good day to follow somebody and fuck them up. And the unfortunate victim this day would be 62-year-old nurse Mary Wilfong. Mary had been out with some friends, just living and loving, and she is in the process of dropping one of them off on her way home. But Anthony is driving behind her, and they are stalking her, and they follow her all the way to her house in Western Henrico. When she gets out the car, Linwood, Anthony, and Eric, they jump out and they bum rush her on the sidewalk. James say he stay in the car. Linwood decides he want to play a little headball with Mary. And this sadistic motherfucker takes a baseball bat and commences to beat the shit out of Mary. I'm talking this nigga literally bust her in the head to the white meat. He broke that woman's skull damn near in two, like she legit lost her head. Linwood then scoops up her pocketbook, take her keys, go in her house, and rob that bitch. Audacious motherfuckers. And then they just dip off like nothing happened. I just don't understand how these niggas that look like they wear polyester jumpsuits with a moose knuckle out here acting like a whole goddamn fool. When y'all see the motherfucking pictures, you're gonna be like, what in the Shalimar is this? And I still ain't done. As you can see, they can't go more than like 2 weeks without fucking somebody up. And on October 6, 1979, he found some more victims in 75-year-old Blanche Page and the man who was renting a room from her, 59-year-old Charles Garner. Baby, Charlie got done so wrong. Now, mind you, Blanche is 75 goddamn years old and damn near blind. And this gang of motherfuckers is up here in this woman's house, beating her ass, and she in her bed, sleep, just trying to get a little beauty rest. This is diabolical. They beat Blanche and Charlie like they stole something. And then they actually did steal something. Took everything that wasn't tied down in that bitch. And then, wait a minute, there's more. Just to be extra, cause I told you that nigga Linwood was extra. Your boy takes some lighter fluid and pour that shit on Charlie, and he set his ass on fire. Barbecued that man. Just some old audacious ass niggas. Audacious ass niggas that still got their day job of that street nigga shit. In addition to the side hustle of just fucking up random people, they would also fuck up people if somebody asked them to fuck them up. So there was a friend of Linwood's that told him that he was having a little beef with this nigga named Thomas Sanders. And Linwood was like, bet, I'ma handle that for you. And did. On October 14th, 1979, this nigga go to 32-year-old Thomas Sanders' house. I told y'all, this nigga don't mind taking the beef to the front door. And he proceeded to beat the brakes off Tommy's ass. And when he was done, he tell Eric to finish him. Like, what in the Mortal Kombat is this? He throw Eric a gun, and Eric sent Tommy to the upper room. When I say anybody could get it, I mean anybody could get it on sight just because Linwood felt like it. And it's kind of because of that almost impulsive need to monkey stomp a bitch and murder a motherfucker is what gets these menaces to society off the street. Because I need you to understand that Linwood is getting popped for crimes from time to time, but in the meantime and between time, all of this mayhem did not stop him from just fucking folks up on sight. Like the next crime victim I'm about to tell you about. Now, what's crazy about this, the morning before all of the shit went down, the brother James, the one that just got paroled, he is standing in front of a judge talking about, I promise you, judge, I'm gonna stay out of trouble. I want to stay on the street. I don't want to be locked down no more. Because remember, this nigga is on parole for robbery back in 1973. You literally just got out. You ain't been out but like a month and a half, some change like that. Baby, later on that same day, after leaving the judge and telling him that you weren't going to do nothing no more, this is October 19th, 1979. Now, this is 5 days after the killation of Tommy. You know what I'm saying? At his house. Linwood got to go and handle his own business. You see, he had some pharmaceutical dealings with this 26-year-old nigga named Harvey Wilkerson, right? And I'm thinking that Harvey must have been ducking Linwood because on this particular day, Linwood and the crew just so happened to be hanging out somewhere by Harvey's house. Harvey see them and he try to duck off in his baby mama house real quick. But nigga, you gotta be quicker than that, cause that nigga Linwood seen your ass. And we know that nigga don't care nothing about bringing the smoke to your door. And that's exactly what the fuck he did. Soon as Harvey Wilkerson dipped off in the house, Linwood and the crew was right behind his ass, knocking on the door. Now, at this point, Harvey know he can't act like he ain't at home because he know he been seen. But he also know if he don't open the door, this crazy ass Peaches and Herb looking ass nigga is probably gonna kick this bitch in. So Harvey opened the door and hit him up with a, hey, what's up, homie? What's hanging? And Linwood was like, yeah, fuck all that. And he came right on in, and the next thing you know, it's a duct tape party. And they commenced to molly-whopping Harvey's ass. And then they made Harvey watch while they gang raped and molly-whopped his baby mama, 26-year-old Judy Barton, who was also 5 months pregnant with their second child. Now, Linwood's sticky finger ass, meanwhile, while all the raping is going on, he robbing the place. And then he bounced to go put the shit in the car, leaving his brothers and Eric to finish playing with their food, if you will. And play they did. After they finished violating Judy, they laid all of them down on the floor, including their 5-year-old son. And then they took turns shooting their asses. Like, they really did. James, the nigga who was just in front of the judge this morning talking about he didn't want to be in trouble no more, this nigga shoot Judy in her head 4 motherfucking times. And then he shot the 5-year-old, Harvey Jr. Sir. Nay, not the little boy. Yes, Noir Nation. 5-year-old Harvey Jr. caught a bullet too. And then Linwood came back in and he realized that he had missed out on the murderation, so he did his little extra move. Y'all know how Linwood get down. This nigga was like, now I gotta stick you. Do y'all know he put 3 butcher knives, a pair of scissors, and a goddamn meat fork in Harvey's back? Like he basically went in the kitchen and just emptied out the silverware drawer and stuck everything that had a point in Harvey's ass. Turned that nigga into a human pincushion. And then they walked out like it wasn't nothing. Like y'all didn't just kill a family of 3 in cold blood. Y'all killed an unborn baby and a 5-year-old child. Them niggas don't give 2 shits about nobody and nothing. And I still don't understand where the fuck is the police in all this shit. I mean, like it's literally been 8 months of these niggas just being extra turned. And well, in this particular instance, when they killed this whole family, it just so happened that the cops were nearby. They were close enough to hear a whole bunch of gunshots, but they couldn't tell where they came from. So while they were looking around to see if there was anything out of the ordinary, they happened to see the Briley gang. Now understand, they know these niggas, and they know these niggas stay trigger happy, and they know they probably had something to do with them shots we just heard. Well, 2-3 days later, somebody figured out that there was a killation at the Harvey house. And here's the kicker. Harvey liked snake, and apparently he had quite a few. And when Linwood and them left, they let all the snakes out the cages. So when the cops came up on the scene and see that there's a house full of dead people, then they had to jump out and run real quick because all these motherfucking snakes is slithering around. They had to wait on animal control to come out and round up the snakes, right? But pause. Can you see it like I can see it? A patrol cop walking in that house and seeing all them snakes and then just running the fuck up out of there. Fuck that crime scene. It's snakes in there, especially if he was black. I told y'all we don't do that shit. It's a few of us special ones out here, I know. But for the majority, we don't fuck with snakes. Period. Anyway, back to the story. Now, the cops remember that Linwood and them was in the vicinity when them gunshots was heard around where Harvey lived. This is October 22nd, 1979. Anthony and James, they was pretty easy to catch. But that goddamn Linwood soul glow looking ass nigga was a whole different story. Tell me why they caught him in the car. He's driving, and in the car with him is his daddy and Eric. Linwood was like, fuck that. It's high speed chase. That's what we doing today. And he had his daddy in the car with him. Y'all tell me why this nigga jumped out of a moving car. A moving car that he left his daddy and Eric in. It was still rolling. That motherfucker hit a telephone pole. It hit a telephone pole. Now, goddamn, Linwood, you was all about the self-preservation, huh? That's some nasty work to jump out of a car when your daddy in the car. Ooh, woo. But they still arrested your ass. When they arrested Linwood, he had on the ring that belonged to one of the victims, Johnny G. Gallagher. Yes. It was Linwood's bad luck to be arrested by a detective that was good friends with Johnny G, who had been with Johnny G when he bought this very distinctive turquoise ring. So he knew instantly when he saw it on Linwood's pinky what it was and who it belonged to. Not only did Linwood have this goddamn ring, when they searched his car, the one that he jumped out of, they found all kind of shit that belonged to other victims. Like, sir, why is you riding around with stolen shit in your car for weeks? Like, how dumb is that? But thank you. Would y'all like to take a guess at who the weakest link in this little gang of thugs was gonna be? Baby G, Eric Meekins, the little 16-year-old sidekick who's not a brother, you just a next door neighbor. When they got him to the station, he's 16 years old, so they had to bring his parents down there. Baby, they was like, you can lie to us, but don't lie to your parents. And once mom and them got there and they laid it all out and told them what little Eric punk ass had been up to, apparently mom and them was like, you better start motherfucking talking right now. And he did. The police offered his ass a plea deal. And the plea was, if you start telling us what the fuck we want to know, we won't send your little funky ass to the electric chair. And Eric was like, okay, I'll take that deal. And he started singing like the rent was due, honey. He told it all, chapter and verse, kill for kill, blow for blow. He told it all. Who, what, when, where, why. And the why was because they felt like it. The police were stunned. Stunned. They actually put that in the paper. They were stunned. They had no fucking idea that the Briley brothers was out here putting in that work the way they were. I mean, of course they knew about the crimes that Eric told them about, just not that the Brileys were the miscreants that committed the goddamn crimes. And they knew the Brileys were violent. They'd been in jail and prison, all of that shit there. But again, they had no clue, hadn't made no investigative headway that would have led them to the Brileys. If it had not been for Eric, they never would have known. Now, Eric, his little deal, I don't know how much of a deal this was, but I mean, he didn't die, so I guess it really was a deal. Eric ends up getting life plus 100 years for killing Harvey and for participation in the other shit. And they told him, I tell you what, because you cooperated with us, we not going to take away parole. We're going to give you the opportunity for parole, and we'll go talk on your behalf and let the parole board know that you helped us and you were an integral part of solving this crime. Man, fuck all that. Now, let me tell you about this. Virginia got this statute that's called the Triggerman Law. And basically, it says that only the person that did the actual factual act of killation can be charged with capital murder. And capital murder is what you get when you get that death penalty. So just because you was a part of the crew and you were there when the killer went down, that won't get you caught up. In Georgia, don't try that shit. If you was there, you was in the car, you was somewhere in the vicinity, you knew about the plan, your ass is just as guilty like you killed somebody. So again, know the law in the state where you fucking riding in. That's all I have to say. That's my PSA for this episode. With that being said about this Triggerman Law, they ended up charging Linwood with capital murder for Johnny G, and then James got capital murder for Judy Barton and her son Harvey Jr. And then all of them were charged with first degree murder for everything else that they did, right? So Linwood go to trial first, and he cranks up the jury in January of 1980. And in a surprising turn of events, the jury on his case was heavy on the Brown side. Yes, there were 9 blacks and 3 whites, and they unanimously voted to kill that nigga on February 22nd, 1980. Anthony went to trial in September of 1980. They gave him life plus 139 years. You gonna never get out, nigga. And then James, he went to trial in November of 1980, and he, like Linwood, caught that death penalty. So the boys are off to jail together. And Eric snitching ass, yeah, he go to prison, but he goes to a different prison under a fake name. Because they knew they was going to get his ass, and Eric wasn't trying to get got. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, the Briley boys did the same thing in prison that they did on them goddamn streets. Terrorized every goddamn body. Them niggas was running the block in prison. They still didn't have 0 fucks to give for nobody. Not the COs, not the inmates, nobody. Them damn Briley brothers was the motherfucking plug for whatever you wanted in prison. The fuck they do that on death row? And you know, as per usual in these types of cases, all kinds of appeals were filed, but none of them went anywhere. Nigga, you gonna die, and we gonna make sure of that. Doubly sure of that shit. But the Briley brothers wasn't through, cause baby, on May 31st, 1984, them goddamn Briley brothers was back at it again. With this time, I told y'all they made history. This is where the history-making shenanigans start. Tell me this now. Now, you know we trust you, but how they gonna make some historical moves on death row? Well, let me tell you. These niggas is audacious. Hold on to your hat, cause you ain't gonna believe this shit. Them niggas escaped from the Mecklenburg Correctional Center, aka prison. Yes, not just them. I'm talking about the Briley brothers, but them motherfuckers had a mass breakout. It was the brothers, and they brought 4 more Walking Dead niggas with their ass. 6 condemned men broke out of what is supposed to be the most secure place in a prison, and they will go down in history as the largest death row escape in U.S. history. Let me say that for y'all again. Them niggas escaped from prison. 6 of them. They didn't just escape from prison. They escaped from death row. Death row. You ain't supposed to be able to get off the block nowhere near in death row. These men broke out, left the prison driving. Yes, baby. Let me tell you how it went down. So they ended up some kind of way taking over the death row unit. And once they had the COs, Linwood went back to his old tendencies and wanted to barbecue a bitch. So he done got some shit and then spread it on one of the COs. But fortunately, one of the inmates wouldn't let Linwood barbecue his ass, right? So Linwood went through. He had to get somebody. So he grabbed the prison nurse. He finna rape her. But here go another prison inmate that get in between Linwood and the woman and don't let Linwood get to him. So thank God Linwood came. Other than taking over and finna break out, he really didn't do too much more at the prison. After they pulled this Shawshank, they all scattered. The Briley boys, however, went to their uncle's house in Philadelphia. Now, Unc's name was Johnny Lee Council. But they can't stay at Unc's house because the people are going to come knocking on everybody's door that is of any relation to these niggas. So check this out. Unc got a friend that, according to him, was about to open a repair shop. Now, just keep that little tidbit of information in your pocket for just a second. I'm going to come back to it. 19 days after the breakout, they finally find out where Linwood and James were holed up at. And on June 19th, 1984, the authorities pull up deep. I'm talking 20 FBI agents suited and booted. And when they jump out on the Brileys, guess what them niggas was doing? Some of the blackest shit, hoodest shit, prisonest shit ever. Them niggas was barbecuing chicken on some concrete steps in back of the garage. If that ain't some prison ass cooking, them motherfuckers will make a way out of no way to MacGyver some shit. Cooking chicken on the steps is what they said. They did not say he cooked it on a grill. They did not say it was on a stove because this is a garage. Ain't no stove in the garage. And baby, you can't barbecue in the microwave. Them motherfuckers built some kind of way to cook chicken on some concrete steps. Ooh, Jesus, I love my people sometimes. The ingenuity of it all. Anyway, now this garage that they found Linwood and James staying at, it belonged to a dude that just so happened to know their uncle. But this nigga, I'm talking about the garage owner, friend of Uncle Johnny Lee, he say that he didn't know that these two niggas that just popped up on the scene, according to them from Georgia, could have been the two niggas that's been all over the news that just broke out of prison. This just so happens to also be the nephews of my friend, Johnny Lee. He said he didn't know none of that until SWAT rolled up on his shit. He knew these two men as Lucky and Slim. Who knew that the two strangers that he was letting stay in his garage in exchange for doing odd jobs around his little spot to help him get it ready to open to the public? Who could have known that? And do y'all know that the motherfucking FBI, they believed that shit and let that motherfucker walk? But not Uncle Johnny Lee. Where they weren't staying at, they locked up Uncle Johnny Lee and hit him with harboring a fugitive, and then to put the stank on it, they gave that nigga $1 million bail. Ooh, y'all know Uncle Johnny ain't got $1 million, but they went through because we still got to deal with the jailbreak crew. And the courts was not playing with their ass. They were on their Tupac shit and hit them up with a $10 million bail. And somebody school your girl, because for the life of me, I can't understand why an escaped inmate from death row would even need to have a conversation about bail. He finna die. Y'all about to microwave these niggas. Any talk about bail is capped in a motherfucker, because even if they could come up with $10 million, y'all ain't about to let them walk off death row. I mean, make it make sense. So the boys are back locked up and they're back on for their executions. And now it's time for Linwood to go and meet his maker on the below side of things. Do y'all know that this nigga didn't even ask for a special meal? They say when they asked him, he just told them, you know what, just give me what everybody else is having. Whatever, nigga. You had your choice of victims. Don't think you doing somebody any favors because you didn't ask for a steak or some shit. But I feel like the nigga used reverse psychology on their ass. Nigga trickery, if you will. Because a motherfucker felt sorry for his funky ass and they gave him a special meal anyway. So while the rest of the prison was eating fried yardbird, they gave Linwood fried steak, baked potato, peas, tossed salad with French dressing, cake, peaches, rolls, fruit punch, and some milk. Ain't that about some bullshit? Don't get this Shalimar looking ass nigga nothing. Nothing. Get this nigga some stale bread and motherfucking city punch. That's all we got for your bitch ass. Well, Linwood took a seat in Old Sparky and they smoked his ass October 12th, 1984. Microwaved his ass at 2,500 volts for 100 seconds and literally cooked that nigga. His last words, I'm innocent. Just lying to the end. You about to meet Jesus in about 90 seconds and you still out here telling lies. I done told y'all, a lie don't care who tell it, long as it get told. But check this out, y'all. I thought this was funny. In a show of solidarity over there on the Green Mile, the day they fried Linwood, the rest of the dead men walking decided that they were going to do a peaceful protest in honor of the homie Linwood. So they wrote a letter to the warden, and the letter said, we will not partake of meal service today because this is some bullshit. Y'all didn't have to do the homie like that. And 19 of the 21 killing, raping convicts that was waiting on their chance to go to the upper room, they signed off on it. Okay. Do your thing. You have a constitutional right to peaceful protest, right? Well, check this out. On the day of the execution situation, 11 of them sapsuckers woke up and was like, hey, man, fuck that nigga. Run me my food. Hunger strike over before it even started. I just thought that was funny. Brother James Briley was executed the following year, April 18th, 1985. But check this out. The month before he was scheduled to die, tell me why this nigga gets married. Yes, you heard me. Married. It's some absolutely desperate assholes out here, and that's all I have to say about that. Cause baby, on March 28th, 1985, he married a woman named Evangeline. I don't know what Evangeline's maiden name is, but her married name is Evangeline Briley. And Miss Evangeline, you's a stupid bitch. I have no words. You's about a dumbass, low self-esteem having ass broad, huh? This woman married a nigga on death row. Jesus be offense. Please, Jesus, fix it. Anthony Briley is still alive and kicking, doing his life bid at the Lawrenceville Correctional Center. He is inmate number 101-5001, and he is 66 years old, still denying he did anything. This nigga has gone up for parole a heap of times and has been denied every time. Thank you, parole board. And the good brother Edward, the one that left home to live in North Carolina, you know I like to tie it all up with a bow. He died November 19, 2020, but they didn't even put Linwood and James' name in the funeral program. They let you know bro Edward was not with the fuckery, not even in death. I don't fuck with them niggas. And last, but certainly not least, Eric Meekins' snitching ass, he been trying to get out of prison for decades. The last report I could find was from back in 2009 when the prosecutors from the original case, they went to the parole board to ask for Eric's release. Nigga, what? Yes, they did. They said it was because they told Eric that they would speak up on his behalf when he went up for parole in the future. Man, I don't give a fuck what he did to help y'all get the Brileys. His little punk ass was just as deep as they were. So fuck that nigga very disrespectfully. And how dare the prosecution have one positive thing to say that might help this little fuckboy get out of prison. That nigga got life plus 100 years. If he's still breathing, he's supposed to be locked up. But who knows if he was released? Because remember, Eric is in prison under an alias. So I can't look him up by his government name. And knowing what we know about these shady ass deals that the prosecution and the corrections people do with these criminals, that nigga Eric might be out and is your next door neighbor for all we know. But I got pictures. Y'all. Take a look and be on the lookout. And that, Noir Nation, is the story of the Briley brothers. Oh my Lord, wasn't that a mess? Imagine though, what if they hadn't got caught? Man, it's stories like this that just strengthen my belief that there are just some people that are born bad to the bone. Call them what you want. Bad seed, menace to society, or my favorite, the spawn of Satan's inbred cousins. Either way, thank the Lord that they finally got these motherfuckers off the street. Even if it did take them long enough. Okay, Noir Nation, now it's on you. You on the clock. It's time for you to talk back to me and tell me what you thought. I want to also let you guys know that On my Apple podcast side, for whatever reason, Apple is on some shit, and I have not been able to pull my comments up so that I can actually comment back or like them or anything like that. And me and Apple are just going round and round. So please understand, if you are leaving me a comment on the Apple podcast side, I see it. I'm kikiing right along with you, but I just cannot respond to you. Hopefully, Apple will get this issue rectified sooner rather than later. And also, if you like to do the social media type of things, why don't you go and check me out on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube? I am the Melanin Mayhem podcast, and on Twitter, also known as X or the Pornhub, depending on how your algorithm sees you, I am the Melanin Mayhem PC. Guys, I love this and I love y'all so much, and I cannot say it enough that I am so appreciative for every listen that you give me, every comment that you leave me. Y'all be cutting up on social media, and I'm here for it all, baby. For this week's Noir Nation shout out, I am shouting out Sassfras1 from Apple. Sassfras says, I have found another true crime gem. Your delivery is so insightful and entertaining. I work a second shift part-time job, 5 to 9, and it was boring until I found Melanin Mayhem. I clock in, put my earbuds in, and before you know it, it's time to clock out. Loving this podcast. Well, Sassfras1, baby, this podcast is loving you too, baby. And thank you so much for listening. I'm glad I can help you get through your work day, because, ooh, Lord, child, don't work be a whole drag, y'all. But if I can help you make them 8 hours, baby, come on with it. You know the country girl is here for you. If you know of a melanated baddie that you think I should do a podcast episode on, let your fingers do the walking, honey. You can do it on any of the social media sites. You can also send me an email at melaninmayhempodcast@gmail.com. However you get down, baby, put it down. I'm going to pick it up. If you haven't done so already, take a look at the Melanin Mayhem discussion group. You can find us on Facebook. Just go and search for the Melanin Mayhem podcast discussion group. You ask to join, and I promise you I'll open the door and let you in. Anywho, y'all know how I love to end the podcast, which is to tell y'all, please, please, please stay safe. Stay vigilant. And above all else, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. It's one love, Noir Nation, and the country girl is out of here.